In Greek myth, pride is rarely just confidence. It is the moment a human being forgets the distance between mortal skill and divine power. And few stories capture that danger more vividly than the tale of Athena and Arachne. At first glance, it seems simple. A gifted young weaver becomes arrogant, insults a goddess, loses a contest, and is punished. But the deeper you go into the story, the stranger it becomes. Because this is not only a myth about disrespect, it is also a myth about art, truth, power, and the cost of showing what the gods do not want to see. Athena was not just a war goddess. She was the goddess of intelligence, discipline, craftsmanship, and skilled labor. She represented control, the trained mind, the steady hand, the perfect plan. If Ares was violence in its raw and chaotic form, Athena was mastery. She was the patron of cities, strategy, and the crafts that turn raw material into culture. And among those crafts, weaving mattered deeply. Weaving was not decorative in the ancient world. It was practical, economic, symbolic. It clothed households, displayed status, and carried stories in thread. So when a mortal challenged Athena in weaving, this was not a casual boast. It was a direct challenge in the goddess's own sacred domain. That mortal was Arachne, usually described as a young woman from Lydia, famous for extraordinary skill at the loom. She was not noble because of birth, she was famous because of talent. People came not only to see the cloth she made, but to watch her make it. Even the process was mesmerizing. The movement of the fingers, the selection of color, the way an image seemed to appear from nothing but thread. And this is the crucial point. Arachne was not a fraud. She was genuinely brilliant. The myth does not say she was mediocre and delusional. It says she was so gifted that people began to wonder whether her talent had come from Athena herself. That should have been an honor. In Greek myth, to be linked with a god is often a kind of blessing. But Arachne refused that explanation. She would not say her skill was inspired by Athena. She would not admit any debt. According to the story, she insisted the talent was her own. And then she went further. She said, in effect, "Let Athena come here herself. Let her compete with me. If I lose, I will accept the penalty." That is the turning point. Because in Greek mythology, the gods do not ignore direct challenges forever. Athena comes down in disguise, not yet as the radiant goddess of helmet and spear, but as an old woman. It is a classic divine test. Before punishment comes warning. Before revelation comes the chance to step back. The old woman advises Arachne to be careful. Compete with mortals if she likes, but not with a goddess. Ask forgiveness, and perhaps Athena will be merciful. But Arachne does not retreat. She grows impatient. She rejects the warning. She wants the contest. So Athena drops the disguise. The old age vanishes. The divine form appears. And now the room changes. Because a challenge that sounded theatrical when spoken aloud becomes terrifying when the goddess is actually there. But even then, Arachne does not take it back. No apology, no hesitation, no hesitation. She sits down at the loom, and Athena sits opposite her. Goddess and mortal. Two artists, two visions of order, two claims about who has the right to tell the truth. The contest begins in silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of absolute concentration. Thread pulled tight. Color measured, images forming row by row, line by line. Athena's tapestry reflects divine order. At the center, she depicts her own contest with Poseidon for the city of Athens, one of the foundational moments of her power. Poseidon offered force and spectacle. Athena offered the olive tree, useful, civilizing, enduring. Her gift won. The city took her name. Around that central scene, Athena places warnings. Mortals who challenged the gods, mortals who forgot their place, mortals broken by hubris. The message is unmistakable. The divine order stands above human ambition. Her tapestry is not only beautiful, it is ideological. It teaches a lesson. Respect the gods. Know the hierarchy. Stay within limits. Then there is Arachne's tapestry. And this is where the myth becomes more unsettling than a simple morality tale. Arachne does not weave nonsense. She does not produce an ugly parody. She does not fail. She creates something astonishing, technically flawless, precise, alive. So vivid that the figures seem almost to move. But the subject is explosive. Instead of glorifying the gods, Arachne exposes them. She fills the cloth with scenes of divine deception, seduction, and abuse, especially the transformations used by Zeus to approach, trick, or overpower mortal women. This matters because Arachne is not merely saying, "I weave as well as Athena." She is saying, "I will show what the gods are really like." Athena's tapestry says, "Divine rule is just." Arachne says, "Divine power is morally compromised." Athena presents order. Arachne presents accusation. Athena defends the cosmos. Arachne cross-examines it. And according to the traditional version, Athena cannot find a flaw in the workmanship. That detail is everything. Arachne is not punished because her art is weak. She is punished because her art is too good to dismiss. Think about what that means. The mortal has done the impossible. She has matched the goddess in the goddess's own medium. And worse, she has used that mastery to reveal a truth Athena does not want honored in public. So Athena's anger explodes. Not the cold calm of strategy, something sharper, personal. She tears Arachne's tapestry apart. In some versions, she also strikes Arachne. The destruction is immediate, as if the image itself is intolerable. And Arachne, seeing her masterpiece ruined, collapses into despair. In Ovid's version, she hangs herself. That is a dark and important detail. The myth is not describing a light scolding. It moves from artistic competition to psychological annihilation. For a moment, the story could end there. A mortal challenged heaven and was broken. That alone would fit the pattern of many Greek myths. But Athena does something more disturbing. She does not simply let Arachne die, she transforms her. The rope loosens, the body changes, the neck shrinks, the limbs grow thin and many. The human weaver becomes a spider. And with that metamorphosis, the myth delivers its most haunting image. Arachne is not silenced completely. She is condemned to weave forever. Her punishment is also the preservation of her gift. That is what makes this story linger. Athena destroys the artist's place among humans, but she does not erase the art. She reduces it, miniaturizes it, turns grand weaving into web making. What was once admired in halls becomes something hidden in corners. So what is the lesson? On the surface, it is obvious. Do not be arrogant before the gods. Do not let talent turn into defiance. Do not mistake excellence for equality with divine power. And yes, that is part of it. Greek myth returns to that pattern again and again. Human greatness has limits. Cross them carelessly and punishment follows. But this myth is richer than that, because Arachne is not simply vain. She is talented enough to raise a difficult question. What happens when a mortal artist tells an uncomfortable truth about power? What happens when beauty is used not to praise authority, but to expose it? Athena cannot deny the quality of the work, so the conflict is no longer about skill. It becomes a conflict over legitimacy. Who is allowed to frame reality, the ruler or the artist? That is why the myth still feels modern. Arachne is the brilliant creator who refuses inherited authority. Athena is the embodiment of the system, not a foolish system, not an incompetent one, but a powerful and intelligent one that still cannot tolerate certain kinds of exposure. There is also something specifically Greek in the tension. The Greeks admired excellence. They celebrated skill, intelligence, and achievement. But they were also wary of excess. To become great was admirable. To forget that you were mortal was dangerous. Arachne stands exactly on that threshold. Her crime is not lack of ability. It is the refusal to acknowledge any order above herself. Yet the myth leaves space for unease, because Athena's response feels disproportionate, even insecure. And that discomfort may be deliberate. Myths do not always reassure. Sometimes they preserve a tension that listeners are meant to wrestle with. So in the end, Athena and Arachne are not just opponents in a contest. They are two visions of art itself. Art as order, reverence, and civilization. Or art as exposure, critique, and dangerous honesty. And the spider, quietly weaving in the corner, becomes the perfect final symbol. Small, persistent, impossible to separate from the act of making. A reminder that talent can survive punishment, but not without transformation. A reminder that power can destroy a masterpiece, yet still fail to erase the impulse that created it. So when we hear the myth of Athena and Arachne, we should hear more than a warning against pride. We should hear a meditation on the peril of brilliance, on the fragile line between confidence and hubris, on the fear authority feels when it is represented too truthfully, and on the strange immortality of art, even when reduced, punished, or driven into the shadows. Because Arachne loses, that part is clear, but she also leaves something behind that even Athena cannot fully undo. A pattern, a question, a web, and once you have seen it, it is very hard to look away.